How do atoms partially align to a magnetic field? That is the question for today. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? Hope you're having a great day. Today, I'm going to be looking at another of the 144 different fractal faculties or stages of life. If you'd like to get a list of all of those 144 fractal faculties, then just please click the link in the description and I'll send you a free list. And that you can look over, and it can be kind of your cheat sheet as we go through all 144 of those fractal faculties in this series. So, click the link. I'll send you a free list, and you can stay tuned and listen to all of the different 144 and have a scorecard with you. Today we're looking at number 93, how do atoms partially align to a magnetic field? Now, you may ask, where did the 144 come from? Well, originally, and what a lot of this channel is going to be about is this diagram here called the Tree of Life. And you can see that it has 10 different circles, which are called spheres. And they are numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then there's a 0 above the tree. And then there's an abyss, which is an implied sphere in the tree. So there's a total of 12 different categories. And this is an ancient diagram. Comes from my version, has roots in ancient Egypt. Probably they got it from somewhere else. It came up through the ancient Hebrews and proliferated across Europe in the Middle Ages. But doesn't matter where it came from, really. What matters is that it's a map of our faculties of consciousness, or at least that's what matters for me the most. And it's something that you can use in your own life to kind of map out your trajectory, see where you're going, see where you've been, figure out whether you're moving in the right direction or not, and figure out where, what the future looks like. So you can do all those things once you gain a little bit of competence with dealing with this map. So I'm here to try to kind of push you to get this into your memory and be able to use it because it's helped me a lot in my life, and I'm trying to share that, share that perspective with you. So when you break down the 12 faculties of consciousness, what you get is mainly the 10th sphere is like our wild animal consciousness. Fight or flight, survival instinct, law of the jungle, and the state of our health of our body. And then you move up here into kind of the mammalian brain, and this is our domestic consciousness at the 9th sphere. This is what we get the first few years of our lives growing up in the home. And we're highly receptive to our influences, which are in particular our parents and whoever is raising us, whoever is around the household. We fixate upon them and we learn what they're doing. We watch what they're doing and we memorize what they've done, and we try to imitate what they've done until we kind of have mastered what they do. And then, that's a almost genetic way of passing down habits and, behaviors. So the 9th sphere is our main learning center. But the 8th sphere is not far behind, and it's kind of the same thing. But whereas the 9th sphere is about our domestic consciousness, domestic faculty of consciousness. The asphere is about the real world. So this is about the public consciousness, going out into public, going to school, going to church, going to, group meetings or, group recreation activities or whatever. But when you're out in the public, there's an established way of doing things. There is a paradigm. There are institutions that tell us what is good and what is bad, what to believe and what not to believe, how things work, and they tell us what we're supposed to believe, and we believe it and we rationalize it. We justify it according to logical thinking. So they say, oh yeah, well, if everybody says it, then it must be true. And so that is kind of like the consensus worldview, and that's what we get from the asphere. And it's a problem because the vast majority of all resources are consolidated here in the asphere. This is where all the establishment and all the institutions are located, and so it's somewhat of a coercion. They coerce you into believing what they tell you, even though it may not be true. And so where this is the real world, the seventh sphere is like the imaginary world. And the seventh sphere is for people who get into the asphere or sniff the asphere, and they recognize that it's not all it's cracked up to be. There are problems here, and there are things here that are not true or half true, and they come over here and they imagine something better. They imagine, okay, what could be done over here to make it better? And so they come up with, a song or some creative piece, something, could be a painting or a cartoon, or it could be an invention of a machine. They come over here and they use the faculties of the seventh sphere, which are the creative aspects, and also our intuition, our imagination, our intuition, our inspiration, and our pleasure principle, what pleases us and what is pleasing in terms of creating harmony, how to put things together in harmonious wholes, whereas the asphere is about how to separate things into categories. So the seventh sphere gives us the faculties that we need in order to improve upon what's going on here. The seventh sphere also gives us a wedge through inspiration to move up higher and higher on the tree, because the inspiration gives us the 1% impetus to then dedicate the 99% perspiration that we need to move up to higher aspects of the tree, well, to what Einstein is calling genius. At the sixth sphere, we're at the middle of the tree, and this is where we are located naturally. You are here, and this is our free will faculty, our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. And so free will is not free. You have to pay attention, and you have to make decisions. But here, unfortunately, most of the time, our attention, which is a vector, which is a direction, you point your attention at things, or you place your attention on a thing, and our attention is generally directed down the tree to our upbringing, to what we got when we were going to school, or to what we got in the home early on, to those beliefs, and to basically bolstering those belief systems that are down the tree. We're paying attention to these things because they're more comfortable to pay attention to, because we have them well developed. We already have gone through our schooling, and we've already, grown up. And we've had these established habits for years. And so we cling to these things by fixating our attention on them. But the other part of free will is our ability to make decisions. And so the first decision that we make as a spiritual aspirant is to turn ourselves around and focus our attention up the tree instead of down the tree. And so when we focus our attention up the tree, it's a scary proposition because we're kind of staring into the void or into the unknown, mostly because these aspects of our consciousness are not well developed at this point. So we don't have like a comfortable, thing to pay attention to. The things that we're paying attention to can bring about fear because they're unknown. And so we have to kind of accept that and be ambivalent toward it, so that we can gradually build up these areas so that they're not so unknown and not so uncomfortable. But, there's a transition period there and growing pains there, that prevent us from even making the decision to turn around. But once we do turn around, then we can start making progress, but we're going to have to go through, some fear and some, bumpy roads on the path. And that's why, it's 99% perspiration. It's not easy, but it's doable. If you get tired, just take a break and come back later. You don't have to do it all at once. And it's just like any other task, just like taking a class in high school. There are difficulties. You tackle them one at a time. You are persistent and you get through it, just like everything else. So it's not something that you need to be afraid of, but you just need to be cautious and you need to have some resolve and some perseverance, and just have some positive thinking that you'll get through this. You just have to keep pressing on. So that's really kind of the things that you're trying to build up here at the sixth sphere. Now, what the sixth sphere is paying attention to in the near immediate future is 5 and 4, which are, kind of like the aspects of the law. The law is articulated at 4 and it is enforced at 5. So we think of 5 as really like our sense of justice. This is how we can tell what is just and what is not. And this is really like the law of karma. So karma is what comes around, goes around. As you sow, so shall you reap. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You can think of 5 as there being a mirror right there. You act into 5 and it comes back to you. You get feedback on your actions. And so you can, karma is really measuring our waste and our violence and our violation in our behavior. And so when we act, if we get a wasteful reaction or a violent reaction, that means that was inherent in what we did. And so we can clean up our behavior by paying attention to the kind of karma that we're getting back. So this is the enforcement of the law, and the law is articulated here in the fourth sphere by a cosmology or a theory of everything. Something that attempts to describe everything about life. Where we came from, what is the nature of the Creator, how things work, how things all fit together. All of these different questions. Where are we headed? What is the purpose? All these different questions are answered by holy books or cosmologies or theories of everything that are compiled over the generations, and that are based on observation and scientific investigation and experiment and all our experience. Whereas the law, in quotes, with a lowercase l, is what we get down here through decree. They tell us what the law is here. Here we discover what the law is. So this is an observation, while this is a commandment. And, if you look at the Egyptian iconography for the fourth sphere, that's Ma'at, the goddess Ma'at, which is depicted with a scale. It's a justice scale. And so the cosmology is telling you, which side of the scale it's on, and then that scale, that judgment is then enforced here at the fifth sphere. And at the sixth sphere, we're paying attention to all of it and learning from it. Okay, so then we move up here into the abyss, which we'll be talking about today. And the abyss has to do with our psychic powers. In particular, this has to do with our psychic heat and our psychic receptivity, or actually psychic receptivity and then psychic heat. Psychic receptivity is our ability to tune into and recognize omens or synchronicities, coincidences in our lives that are relevant, that they are recurring numbers, recurring names. These are things that are pointing out to us that we should be paying attention to this thing, and then and that there's something that we need to do about it, which is where the psychic heat comes in. The psychic heat is our ability to act upon the omen. So there's two aspects, and then this is also, there are other aspects here of the psychic powers, telekinesis and what's the word? All the audiences, clairvoyance, clairaudiences, remote viewing, teleportation. These are all things that can be activated here at the abyss, but those are basically like parlor tricks. You can do them, but they can be very distractive. Learning how to activate them, and they can definitely veer you off the straight and narrow spiritual path, because they have great power, and you can develop great abilities there. But the question is it helping you with your spiritual involvement? To tune in, to come closer to the truth, and the answer can be yes or no. But it's better to not get fixated on those things. If they come, they come. So anyway, the other thing about the psychic powers is that the abyss in particular has to do with our magnetic attraction and magnetism in general. That's where the fractals of the abyss are going to be. But then there's also fractals of the lower spheres that are like the abyss within each one of these spheres, and that's really where the electric qualities are concerned. So magnetic and electric. I'll be explaining those fractals here before long too. But so then we also have 3, 2, and 1, which are our divine aspects within us. Omnipotence, all powerful; omniscience, all knowing; omnipresence, all present, all at once, forever. And so this we tap into. The omnipotence, or all powerful, we tap into through sound, particularly through synchronized sound, especially mantra. And here we tap into omniscience, or all knowing, or wisdom, or the ability to solve problems, tapped into through light and our vision. And this is really by kind of being able to ignore our thinking and to sink more and more deeply into our subconscious, toward the superconscious that's at the center, that's going to give us that vision. And then the first sphere is our omnipresence, which is our deepest center. At our deepest center, or you might say the heart, but our deepest center, where we have this spark, this divine spark within us, which is exactly the same as the divine spark within everything else. So that is a unifying factor. We, at the deepest center, we are all the same, and that way we can relate with each other and become unified with each other. If we can reach our deepest center, that requires incredible amounts of stillness. Again, you can think of the mind as like a lake, or and you know, it's only if the lake is perfectly calm that you can see through to the bottom. And the bottom is really where the, you know, the divine spark is located. But you have to quiet the mind to be completely perfectly calm before you can actually see through the water. So that's kind of the an analogy there. And then the zero sphere above the tree has to do with our mystery. We don't know anything about it because it's the part of the creator that the creator reserves for itself. And so we don't have a direct access to the zero. It's really kind of like precedes the universe, and it's really like the rules of the game, how the whole thing operates. But it was all there before the, you know, the universe was formed. So it's the part of the creator that the creator reserves for itself. And it's normally embodied with numbers and numerology. Okay, then now in order to get my model, the 144 fractal faculties, basically I just fractalized the tree of life. Tree of life has 12 different categories and purports to be able to describe everything. So I've just placed a miniature tree of life onto each one of the 12 faculties. So I've boiled down the 12 faculties into 12 each, 12 mini faculties each for each one of the 12 faculties. So 12 by 12 is 144. So you end up with 144 fractal faculties, which I describe as being the stages of life. But those stages are not chronological as much as they are dramatic stages. And that is what you get. You'll get a list of those 144 fractal faculties if you click the link in the description. And I'll send those out to you for free. Now today we're looking at fractal faculty or stage number 93. And 93 is smack dab here in the abyss. And it's really the third fractal of the abyss. So it's right here, and it is, you know, the abyss is about magnetic attraction, magnetism in general. And, you know, that maps out to being our psychic powers, our ability to tune into and recognize omens. And you could think of the omen as really being the external field, the external magnetic charge. And we are reacting toward that external magnetic charge, that omen. You know, first we have to recognize it, and then we have to act upon it. And the third sphere is about omnipotence, all powerful, tapped into through mantra. And so this is, you know, this particular stage that we're talking about is about the combination of those two things. Within the area of magnetism, you know, what is the thing that is omnipotent? So, number 93, how do atoms partially align to a magnetic field? Stage number 93, domains. Stage number 93 is about the partial, imperfect alignment of an atom with a magnetic field as a result of heat and other disruptive forces. Domains are part of a third dimension, electricity, which dilutes the concentration of the two-dimensional magnetic charge, or really just the magnetism. And the tendency to line up is limited by the thermal and disruptive forces. Magnetic charges rely upon cold temperatures. Heat disrupts and makes weaker a magnetic charge. So any heat resists the formation of a magnetic field. In most cases, in most fields, there is some resistance to lining up, resulting in domains. Domains are needed because there is resistance to perfect alignment. Domains are a partial alignment and a partial disalignment or resistance or reluctance, not random. Domains are a magnetic ambivalence, on the fence, a magnetic competition between alignment and resistance. An external field causes an atom to undertake a reorientation to conform, the extent of which is determined by the strength of the magnetic field, and then also by the heat and the other disruptive forces. The atom is divided into domains, where some domains are aligned and some are not. Domain ordering is not controlled by the first two scalar dimensions, like the magnetic dimensions of an atom, A and B, but by the third scalar dimension, or the chemical or space region, the C. Now, this is all coming from the reciprocal system, and this is the idea that instead of using just a number for elements, Larson uses three numbers: the first and second magnetic rotations, and then the third, which is an electrical rotation. So every atom in his system has an A, B, and C. And so the magnetic domains are controlled by the C. Magnetic, the electric rotation. Magnetic orientation. And so that's all part of the physics of the reciprocal system. But the domains are basically, show an ambivalence, whether you are going to be aligned with that magnetic charge or whether you're not going to be aligned with it. And it's a little bit complicated because we're also talking about heat as a disruptive force. But it's really, we're talking about an inverse sector of the universe. So even though heat reduces the magnetic field effect, heat is still what you need, or courage is what you need to be able to act upon that magnetic field, because there's an inverse. So it's it appears to be heat, but it's actually cold, is what our what you call Wachet, which is the hot snake, which is really represented by the magnetic, by the lunar eclipse. So it really is based on the cold part, even though that's a representation of lunar eclipse, is the representation of heat. So the lunar eclipse has to do with Wachet, the snake of the abyss that refers to the psychic heat, whereas the psychic receptivity is due to this other snake called Nekabet, which has to do with the solar eclipse, which you would think would be cold because it's blocking out the sun, but it's actually the reverse. So that probably made no sense to you. It doesn't make complete sense to me. This is a difficult part of the tree of life. And like you, I'm just a aspirant working to understand the tree in the best way I can. It's a lifelong study, and it's well worth your time. But you just have to be, you kind of have to have a little bit of a stick-to-itiveness, and just a general interest. And then once you can memorize the diagram, you can take off with it and you can really move with it. It's not really as important to pay attention to all the specifics. Just have a general idea of what each sphere is about and how they are related in the diagram, geometrically, spatially with each other. And those are the key things that you need to move forward. So don't be disconcerted if you're, getting confused with any of the specifics of the explanations that I give. Those things will come eventually. Maybe you watch this video multiple times, and eventually you might get it, but the first time around, maybe not. Everybody's at a different place with this, and some people will get certain things out of these, and other people will get other things out of them. But the main point is that just keep applying yourself to this, and eventually, the pennies will drop, and you'll get it, and then you'll take off with it. So don't get discouraged. If you would like to, again, see that list, just click the link in the description. You can also hit the like button, share, and subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for future videos in this series.